So what did you have to say to Governor Reynolds, and what was her response?
Well, I just asked if the good governor of the great state of Iowa believes in climate change, and she appeared to deny that climate change was real. And we just had a tornado go through our lovely valleys in July, and that is not normal weather. And then you have the super hurricane Harvey hitting our southern coasts of Texas and Louisiana. And the impact of industrial agriculture on Iowa and the climate and on the Mississippi River is real, and they don't seem to make the nexus between our human impact and the climate.
First, was hoping you could respond to some of the concerns that a resident addressed regarding your views on climate change. You know, mentioning the tornado this community had, and then the hurricane, of course,
Yeah, well,
down in.
first of all, I appreciate him being here and had the opportunity to listen to what he had to say. But we have a very busy schedule, and it's open to the public, so he appreciated him coming up and expressing his concerns. But I also had made a commitment to tour the park and to do the proclamation. And what we did is he gave us his card, and we'll reach out to him and come back up, and we'll sit down and we'll have that conversation with him. He asked for the opportunity to get on the river and take a look at what some of his concerns were. And so we look forward to that. Of course the climate is changing. Science will tell you that. There's variable reasons for that. He talked about our farmers and agriculture, and what I see, we're working every day through the nutrient reduction strategy to make sure that we're maintaining soil health, as well as working every day for water quality to make sure that we have great water quality. A couple weeks ago we were traveling the state really highlighting communities and our agricultural community working together, both implementing water quality practices as well as doing what they can to maintain soil health. So everybody has a stake in this, and everybody has a role to play. And I think sometimes that gets lost. And so we're working really hard over the interim to make sure that we get a water quality bill passed so that we can provide long-term, dedicated, and growing revenue source to really scale best practices. The thing I think that's encouraging also with technology and innovation, things are changing every day, and so it costs farmers to put those nitrogen in the ground, and so they don't want to lose it or run off. They want to be very purposeful when they do that, and with precision farming and with our hybrid seeds and the conservation practices that they're putting in place, they're doing their role. So we look forward to reaching back out to him and continuing the conversation. We do that all the time. Kayla is our policy person, and she exchanged cards. He gave us his, and we'll continue the conversation. And we can do it by phone, and then we can come back at a later time. We just have a very tight schedule, and that was scheduled.
And lastly, I was wondering if you could respond to some of the criticism regarding the deal involving Apple building the data center in Waukee.
Yeah, I'm not going to back away from that. I am proud. I am really proud that a global company like Apple, with a lot of other states competitively going after that because of our leadership in renewable energy. You want to talk about the environment and doing what we can to protect the environment. We lead the country in renewable energy, especially wind. And as they look for places to locate their data centers, they want it to be 100% renewable, which I commend them for that. And because of Iowa's leadership in wind, almost 37% of our electricity is generated by wind. There's not a lot of other states that could meet the criteria that they put in place. Our workforce, our productivity, our central location, we don't have a lot of earthquakes or hurricanes, and so because of that, we really we won. We got it, and it really, I think, signifies that Iowa is a hub for innovation and technology. And this is a very, very, very small investment. It's not a check. We're not writing them a check. It's a tax credit. They have to build that data center. They have to actually perform, and when they do, and the state's portion of that was $19.5 million for a $1.4 billion investment. And if you take, for example, in Waukee, the revenue that they have right now on that land is about $24,000. After the first data center is built, the revenue from just the first data center, and this is a long-term commitment, is $1.9 million. So that's growth and revenue that they wouldn't have seen, and that revenue is going into infrastructure, and it's helping build out that city that's growing. and that brings supply chain, extra jobs, housing. So it's a great thing.
What about those, though, that would point to the tax abatements and argue it's a lopsided deal considering the amount of permanent jobs that would be created,
Well-
arguing that there are more Apple employees?
Well, first of all, let's not look at the snapshot in time. Let's look long term. And I just gave you a great example. That will be built by 2020. They would have had $24,000 of revenue coming into the city, but now because of that small investment, they're going to have 1.9 million that they wouldn't have had. So let's talk about the increase there. So it's an investment that's bringing in additional revenue. They didn't give 100% tax abatement for however many years. They did 71% so they could start to recognize some of that growth right away. And you know, if it's not going to be just 50 jobs. We've seen it. I was just at Kemen yesterday. We did the ribbon cutting or connected the globe for the expansion that they put in. And Chris talked about what he said they would do as far as the commitment to jobs for some of the tax credits. Again, it's not a check, it's a credit based on performance, and they exceeded that by a lot. So conservatively, Apple said 550. What the average typically is 1,700. And if you talk to some of our construction workers and our trade groups that have been at Apple, they've had a consistent, permanent job for 3 years because they've gone from one data center to the second, to the third, and now they're starting the fourth. I talked to a young woman that does construction there with the trades, and she's on her 3rd year at Apple. So these aren't part-time jobs, these are great jobs, and we're growing our economy, and we're putting infrastructure in place, and I'm so proud to say that Tim Cook and Apple chose Iowa as the place that they wanted to do business and that they wanted to look at, and it's a long-term partnership.